Hey, welcome to the Hell Has an Exit podcast. I'm your host, Brian Alzate. This show is not affiliated with any specific 12-step program. If you or a loved one is struggling with an addiction, please find a local 12-step meeting. If you believe you may need detox or drug treatment of any kind, please call 833-999-1877 to speak to a specialist. The show is sponsored by United Recovery Project, a state-of-the-art drug and alcohol rehab facility. You can visit our website at unitedrecoveryproject.com. So welcome to Hell Has an Exit. I'm your host, Brian Alzate. Today I have Roy B, A Touch of Bliss. I've pretty much known you since you've been clean 8 years now.
Yeah.
And I've actually never heard you speak. I don't even think I've heard you share. But since the time I've known you, I've always just got like super good vibes from you. Like I've just seen like your whole life like catapult into like what it is today. We know all the same people, you know, and you listen to the podcast.
100%.
So, you know, when you were like, bro, I love Hell Has an Exit, I was like, dude, you want to be a guest? So,
Yeah, I appreciate it.
there you go, for sure, dude.
I appreciate it.
So you're from Virginia?
Yeah.
What was growing up
so
in Virginia like?
Growing up in Virginia was like, when I was real young, I was born in Northern Virginia. I was outside of like DC area. And then my uncle was in the military. So my mom and dad like moved down to like the Hampton Roads area. And that's where that's my first memories is Hampton, Newport News area. I lived downtown Newport News. My earliest memories of like school and stuff, I was like the only white kid in my class. It was nothing to like go to the park and see rigs on the ground, see crack pipes on the ground. You know, it's where we live, man. You know, that was the norm. I grew up in a very abusive home. Father, physically abusive to my mom, broke my mom's nose like twice, sexually molested my sister.
Wow.
Which I found that out when I was like 6. I was in second grade. I started school when I was 4 because my birthday's in December. And like back then you could start school. I had to take like a test to see if I was like good enough. Or like, do you know your address? Do you know your phone number?
Wow.
Blah, 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 right? One of the tests was like, they had a stick figure and they told me to complete the drawing. So like I drew a face, I drew a hand and a foot, whatever. And and the lady was like, why'd you draw a sad face? And I was like, because he's only got one arm and one leg. You know what I mean? Like I didn't draw the other arm or leg. Like whatever, bro. You told me to finish the picture, you know?
Yeah.
And they were like, you're ready to start. Started school when I was like 4. I think I was in second grade, first or second grade. Where we lived, it was like a mansion. It like used to be a mansion back in the day. And this big fucking house had been broken down into apartments, right? So it was like when you came in the front door into the foyer, right, there was like a little studio apartment right here. And then if you go around back, there was a little 2-bedroom apartment, whatever. And we lived around the back of it. And so when you came into the house, you came into the front door, our front door, you were in the kitchen. And then you went through the kitchen into my bedroom. Then you went through my bedroom into like this huge room that was like the living room / my parents' bedroom. And
This is like an apartment?
This is an apartment. It's a big house, but this is our apartment of this house.
Wow.
Right? And so
I've never heard of that my whole life.
Yeah, bro, it's crazy. We live downtown Newport News, bro. We live right next to the shipyard, like 2 blocks from the courthouse. There was a titty bar next door to us, you know? And yeah, so then you would go through the big living room / my parents' bedroom, and my sister's room was there, and then the bathroom. So like one day I came home from school. I don't know, my mom and my sister were like in the bathroom crying, you know, like I could hear, I had to use the bathroom. So I'm like knocking at I'm 6 years old, bro. Like I don't know, you know what I mean? And I'm just like knocking at the door and they come out and I can tell obviously they're upset. And my sister's like, can we tell him? And my mom's like, yeah, go ahead. And she's like, your father molested your sister. I don't know what that means.
Yeah,
I'm like, okay,
what?
I got to go pee. You know what I mean? Like I went in and peed. And the crazy thing is like, they told me that. I didn't understand the weight of that. I didn't know what it meant. I didn't, you know? And at the time, there was a thing called the Just Say No campaign that was going on. It was like before DARE, you know? It was like Just Say No to Drugs, and there was T-shirts and whatever. And we had like an assembly at school. At the assembly...
How old are you?
Now I'm 36.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. I was born in 85. So this is like 91, 92-ish. We had an assembly at school, and they were telling... On the assembly, it was like, don't take candy from strangers, like watch out for drugs and warning you about weed and all this and that. And it was like, they had like one little segment that was like wrong places to like touch a kid. and they were talking about molesting and this and that. And like, I'm starting to kind of grasp it, but like not really. And when we got back to the classroom, the teacher was like, does anybody know of this happening or anything? And I just raised my hand.
Shut up.
Yeah, bro. I just like raised my hand. I was like, yeah, my dad molested my sister. Cause like at the time, bro, I was a class clown.
Yeah, he didn't know.
I was a class clown. Like, dude, I was throwing spitballs. I was constantly getting in trouble.
Thing.
I thought it was a funny thing. The whole fucking class laughed, which is what I was looking for.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know, everybody laughed at it. I'm like, okay, funny, right? And then like 30 minutes later, the guidance counselor came to get me and pulled me out of class and took me to the office to further ask me about what I had just said. And that's when I was like, oh, fuck. Like, I just fucked up, right? Because it was like, even from an early age, bro, I was raised that, like, you don't talk about what goes on at home. Both my parents smoked weed. I didn't know it that at the time my father was an addict, like was a coke addict and smoked crack and all this and that. Like, I knew he drank a lot and I knew my parents smoked weed, but I didn't know he did the other shit, you know? But I was told, like, you just don't talk about what goes on at home. Yeah. And so when they pulled me in to talk to me in the office, I was like, fuck, man, I just fucked up, bro. Like, I remember the whole bus ride home just being terrified. Like, I'm going to have to tell my father.
You thought your dad was going to whoop your ass?
He's going to beat the fuck out of me, bro. Yeah. Like, he's going to beat my ass, you know? And I remember, dude, this is how terrified I was. I got home and I told my mom. This is how terrified my mom was. My mom didn't, like, go break it to my father of, like, hey, by the way, Roy said something at school. It was like, nah, Roy's got something to tell you. And my mom still, like, put that burden on me for me to tell him.
As a kid?
Like,
about that? That's crazy.
That I told on him, you know? My mom's terrified of what he's going to do to her, bro. Dude, I've woken up in the middle of the night with my father just beating the shit out of my mom. Like, my mom clutching her purse, I now know is because he was trying to get money for drugs. I remember waking up at like 2 a.m., bro. My mom's screaming bloody murder, you know? She's clutching her purse, and my dad's just over the top of her. Bah, 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 you know, just beating her in the back. I remember my sister called the cops. That level of dysfunction is just so normal to me. I remember when that happened, and the cops came, right? And my father just like took off. I was so pissed off because he was wearing my Dallas Cowboys hat that I had just gotten for Christmas. And I was like, he wore my fucking hat, right? Like, fuck the fact that he just beat the shit out of my mom. You know, like, I care about her and everything, but like, it was just normal, bro. It was normal. It was normal for my dad to get pissed off during dinner. And I remember vividly, like, him just standing up and slinging the plate of spaghetti, it hitting the wall and just sliding down. Like, you know what I mean? Like just like, movies. Yo, fuck you. Like, just all this art. Bro, I remember one time I was like 4.5, 5 years old. And my dad had me with him at work one day. And we're on the ride home. I'm in the middle. My dad's driving. His friend's in the passenger seat. And I was like, we stopped at the store, like a 7-Eleven or something. I'm like, I'm thirsty. Dad, I'm thirsty, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, man, I ain't got no money. I wanted a Yoo-hoo. And he was like, I ain't got no money. And I'm like, dude, like, so we get back in the car and he hands me his beer. Right? And he'd given me a sip of beer before or whatever. But his friend starts like, yo, what are you doing, man? That's a kid. And he's like, yo, shut the fuck up. That's my kid, blah, blah, blah. Bro, we're pulling into our little trailer park that we lived in at the time. And they jump out the car. Now they're going at it, bro. My dad runs in the house and grabs a baseball bat, cracks this guy in the head. The guy takes the bat from my dad. My dad runs back in the house to get a steak knife. This guy comes out the house with a pistol. And he told my mom the only reason he didn't shoot my dad is because me and my sister were standing there screaming like, please don't kill my dad. It was just like a lot of...
This is over giving you a beer.
This is over giving me a beer and then them having words. You know what I mean? My dad's got a short fuse, pop off at the mouth, whatever. Back to like the whole molestation thing. So social services gets involved. They start an investigation.
What did your dad say when you told him?
He just broke down crying, you know?
He didn't beat your ass or anything?
No. He just broke down crying. Because like, I don't have a lot of memories of my young childhood because like it's our human nature that we block out a lot of bad shit. I remember specific things, but before the age of like 8 years old, bro, everything's like a blur. But I remember him breaking down crying. He was upset. Like he fucked up. He knew he fucked up, you know? The story that we got or that was told in court or whatever was that he came out of the bathroom one night, hammered, and like fell into the bed and thought it was my mom. We know that more went on than that. It wasn't just that one time that he did it, whatever. He also doesn't realize like the psychological effect that had on everybody, bro. Like not just my sister, dude. That shit fucked me up for a long time. Like I go through life like...
Shame, whatever.
Bro, is there something wrong with me? Am I sick? Like, you know, I was telling my wife, bro, it's like, until about a year ago, you know, like sometimes you're in a grocery store and there's like a little baby or a kid or something in the cart and they're waving at you and shit, bro. I would like look away because I wouldn't want like the parent to think that I'm looking at their kid, you know? And now that I have my son and shit, I'm just like, I'll see a baby and I'm like, what's up? And I'll make faces and I'm comfortable to do that now.
Yeah, but there's a lot of like stuff happened to me in my childhood that I had a lot of fear about, like, you know, growing up and like what happened to me and just like thoughts of like maybe I'm not going to be a good parent or maybe there's something fucking wrong with me or whatever. And it wasn't until like sponsorship where my sponsor was like, bro, you were a kid.
Right. You're not responsible for that.
Yeah, bro, you were fucking in first grade.
Right.
But when stuff happens to you in first grade, and even though you know, like if this happened to somebody else, you could easily be like, bro, that was like in first grade. Who cares?
Right.
But when it happens to you, it's like, it's weird. You can't identify your own shame.
Right. You know? There's an Eminem song, right? The Sing for the Moment song, right? The Aerosmith little chorus or whatever.
That was your jam.
Bro. Don't make fun of me. Okay, dude, that song like
I love
legit
that song too,
gives me fucking goosebumps, bro. Like, because that verse where he's talking about this kid sags his pants, do rags in a stocking cap. His stepfather hit him, so he socked him back. His house is a broken home. All this shit, right, that he talks about is literally like he was speaking my life. I was like, yo, this motherfucker's like talking my shit, right? And the crazy thing is, Eminem, I went through like growing up with him, like using drugs, and then M got in recovery, and then like shortly after, I didn't follow him, but it's just weird. I shared that song recently with my father. I was like, yo, I want you to listen to this. I sent him to like the YouTube link with the lyrics. I was like, read the fucking lyrics on this shit.
Is it
bro.
recently?
Recently, like a year ago. And I was like, I want you to read that. And like, I was 16 when this song came out. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm talking to my sister about this same song. Prior to me talking to her about the song, I'm asking her, I'm like, yo, like, this shit happened like 30 some years ago. Like, how the fuck does it still like affect you like that, right? I'm talking about a song from 20 years ago. Yeah, it still affects you like that because there's shit. My sister was like, you know, there's times
Your
where
sister was asking why it affects you like that?
No, I was asking her, how are you letting something that happened 30 years ago, like you're almost 40, you know what I mean? Like you're 38, whatever, 39. Like, how is it still affect? Like that shit happened when you were like 8 years old, you know? And I caught myself, I was like, I'm asking you how that affects you. But yet, I'm talking about a song from 20 years ago. You know what I mean? Like a song.
That's giving you goosebumps
That's
now.
giving me goosebumps now.
So
It's like bringing me back to that emotion now, you know?
So imagine what like childhood trauma does.
Bro, it's crazy, man. She was like, you know, there's times where like my daughter's in the bed with me and like ask me to rub her back. And I rub her back. And then it gives me a flashback of me asking to have my back rubbed and then something else happening. Bro, it's so fucked up. Like, the whole shame, the guilt, everything that comes from that. I don't understand the mindset what would have somebody. I don't understand sexual abuse in any sense of the form of the word, you know what I mean? But much less like to a child, much less to your own child. Like, I really can't wrap my head around it.
Man, the only thing that I've ever grasped, I remember hearing some speaker talking about how he had someone stay at his house, a recovering addict, and this recovering addict like molested his daughter, and he went to trial, and like this guy's doing years in prison. It didn't forgive the situation, but this guy talked about how he was molested as a kid.
Right.
This is just stuff that has passed down through generations. That motherfucker still deserves to be in jail, you know what I mean? But it's like, that's the only thing that I can come up with is that, just like how does someone punch their kid in the face?
Right.
It's like, dude,
somebody did it before.
Someone punched them in the face when they were a kid. And I don't know, and some people have that experience and choose to go the opposite way. Just like how there's people who are like, yo, my parents are drug addicts, so I chose never to do drugs.
To never do it, right.
Bro, I was at the eye doctor the other day, and this lady was talking to me, and like we started talking about the podcast, and she's like, wow. And this lady was probably like 38. She was like, I've never had a sip of alcohol. I said, really? She's like, I've never had a sip of alcohol. I've never smoked weed. Never? She's like, not even tried it because her family has addicts.
Holy shit.
So it's like, it's interesting how someone can have the same experience and choose to do the opposite.
Dude, me and my sister grew up in the same household. You know what I mean? And like, she's not a drug addict.
Yeah.
She smoked weed a handful of times, like doesn't like alcohol, none of that, you know? All that stuff about like the sexual abuse shit and that happening, it makes me like super hyper aware. It makes me super fucking scared. Bro, you had a girl on the episode a couple of weeks back, a couple of months ago or whatever, and she was talking about her babysitter. Yeah. When she was like 9 years old, the babysitter, the girl was like 15 or 16, took her in her room. And I'm just like, I'm hearing her tell that story and I'm like, why? Like, why the fuck did that need to happen? Like, it's not fair to the 9-year-old. I understand whatever happened to the 15-year-old happened, but I'm just like, bro, like that shit scares me. Like with my kid, I'm scared of like, fuck, man, I don't want this to ever happen to him. You know, and it's like...
Yeah, and it's crazy because it's like, now that I'm an adult and I have, like, I don't have kids, but I have, like, 2 nieces.
Right.
You know, and my sister's crazy protective over her kids. And it's like, dude, I don't think 20 years ago it was like that.
Right.
20 years ago, you know, like there's that meme, like 20 years ago, we didn't have babysitters. It was like, yo, don't open the door.
Right. That's it. That's it. 100%.
It was like,
you watch yourself.
Yo, hey,
I'll be home at 6.
I don't care who knocks on the door. You're not opening. I'll be back.
For nobody.
I'll be back at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
Or it was like, yo, can you watch my kids? It'd be like your uncle's friend's cousin watching the kids.
Yeah.
And I think stuff obviously went on because look at where we're at. But at the same time, it's like people weren't talking about it. So a lot of times people have this like idea of like the pussy ass generation that we're in. People complain about, oh, this generation's too soft. You got fucking people complaining and crying. Well, guess what? The generation before was too hard.
Right.
So
the generation before never talked about anything.
Right. No one shared their feelings. Men didn't show emotion. And now you have a new generation of men showing their emotions. History is constantly correcting itself.
Right.
We see this with fucking politics. We go really right one way and then we go really left the other way. And it's like this pendulum. So it's like, why do you think that these people are getting soft? It's because their dad never cried. It's because they grew up in a household that like that wasn't allowed. And I believe that balance is the key to everything. So it's like there's a balance somewhere.
Right.
But, you know, people that complain about this generation, like, well, who raised these kids? You know what I mean? It's like, oh, kids these days. Motherfucker, your generation raised them.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like your generation had really tough parents. And then those kids had kids and they taught them about getting participation trophies.
It is what it is.
We make our own bed. So tell me about the story. So what happens after that?
Yeah, so I tell, right, at school, obviously like Child Protective Services or whatever got involved. Basically, man, like for the next 2 years, they were involved. So like they were like doing the home checks and all this and that. Like it was going to trial. Like they were taking it, you know, the state was pressing charges.
Now Virginia, what happens? Your dad still live at home when that happened?
At the time, he still lived at home. I don't remember exactly those details. He still lived at home, and I know that like there was some shit going on as far as like there was an investigation, whatever. I didn't really see too much. Whatever was going on was like behind the scenes for me. My father was a severe alcoholic, drug addict, abusive, whatever, right? And then it's like, bro, for the next 2 years, it was like we were on cloud. Dude, those first 6, 7 years of my life, we lived from place to place. You know, we lived with my aunt and uncle for a little while. We moved into a motel for 6 months. We moved into a trailer park for a year. We moved into that apartment for 2 years. We were just like bouncing around. We were always between Newport News and Hampton. They're like neighboring cities, right? It was just like we were here, we were there, we were here, we were there. We never had like any place like, dude, there was times we never had Christmas presents. We didn't have a lot of shit. The Christmas presents we got were like from my mom's friends or coworkers and shit, right? And I always like wondered like, why the fuck did we lived on welfare? We got the government cheese, the big tubs of peanut butter, food stamps when it was like money. You know, my mom would give me like $5 and tell me I could go get whatever I wanted. And I'd be like picking up chips and soda. And then I'd put that back because I saw this. And I had to learn how to fucking get what I needed on that $5 because that was it, you know? And then all of a sudden, bro, it's like when that happened, bro, the next 2 years, it was like we were living large. I remember that Christmas, bro. I think it was like Christmas in 92 or 93 or whatever. Bro, like the Christmas presents went from the dining room, like flooding into the living room, into the kitchen. There was so many presents. It was just like, what the fuck, man? Like, I was like, yo, Santa got the right house this year, bro. Like, it was crazy. But because he didn't fuck up all the money, you know?
Not just that. So I mean, you got to realize your dad's probably also making up for all this shit.
Right.
So,
but like the biggest thing was he would go on binges. So he would pay the rent, he would pay the electric bill, and then he would fuck up 2 or 3 paychecks in a row. Dude, my dad one time disappeared for like 3 days and then comes back home with a bullet hole in the front window and telling my mom that he was held hostage for 3 days. This is why you can't tell my mom like a blah, blah, blah bullshit story. If my mom asks you what happened, you can't just be like, yeah, blah, blah, blah.
She wants all the details.
No. Where'd you go next? What'd they say? What happened after that? That's why I have like this way of telling stories because I have to tell you every detail. So yeah, he disappears for like 3 days. But then my mom's like, okay, so when you broke free, like, did you go to the police? And he's like, of course I did. She's like, oh, okay. So then you must have talked to the sheriff. He's like, yeah, what was his name? I'm going to call there right now. She's going to follow up, bro. She's not buying your bullshit, you know? He would just fuck up the money, you know, and put us behind on rent. We're getting evicted, whatever. I mean, he made decent money, you know? So then he went to court, and it was either 93 or 94. I think it might have been 94. I was 8. So yeah, I was going to be 9 in December. And he went to court, and he got sentenced to 20 years, with 13 suspended. That's because my father was a career criminal. My father's been going to prison.
Wait, he got 20 years for what?
For the molestation. Whatever it was with a child, minor under 13,
yeah.
whatever, because my sister was like 8 at the time when it happened. But my father's been going to prison since he was 16 years old.
So because he had a rap record, it was 20 years already.
Yeah. My father's like 60-something now, and he spent more than half his life in prison. He got 20 with 13 suspended. Shortly after that, it was like, prior to him going to prison, my parents had like all these friends, right? All their smoking buddies, you know what I mean? Like whatever. And that's what like early childhood was like. It was like their friends would come over to smoke and shit, and they would tell us kids to go outside, which back then you didn't have to really tell a kid to go outside. We go outside and play, you know? It was just like always get out of here, get out of here, get out of here. We're doing stuff. There was one friend though, this guy Klaus, who was like a mutual friend of the family, whatever, but like we loved Klaus. Like me and my sister loved him. He was the only adult that would like go out and kick the soccer ball with us, that would take us to fly kites, that would like take us to play tennis and all this and that. So when my father went to prison, he asked him like, yo, will you go by and check on my kids and like teach my kid to like throw the ball around and the shit that I never did. And so Klaus was coming around, and then him and my mom ended up hooking up. And then he became my stepdad. And at first it was like, you're not my fucking dad. Why are you telling me to chew with my mouth closed and all this shit? Like, who are you? And I was getting in a lot of trouble, man. I was like 9 years old.
Yeah, when you're a kid, you don't realize how much like that shit affects you. Because when I was a kid, like, dude, my dad was so strict. Dude, like, I grew up with a dad that's like, when you walk into someone's house, you say, yes, ma'am, no, sir. Right. You look them in the eye, you shake their hands. And there was times when my dad would be like, yo, say hello, shake his hand. And I'd be like, I just did. He'd like, I didn't see you. Right. And I'd be like, this is mad weird, bro. Why do I got to do this? Now that I'm an adult, I see that some people don't have that ability to be like, hello, I'm Brian. Nice to meet you. Like, they just don't have.
He wants you to be assertive.
Like, he wanted me to be like assertive, respectful, and make eye contact, and like how to hold the fork. Bro, my dad used to throw the fucking plate when I couldn't hold the fork the right way and chewing with my mouth open. You know, you meet people that don't know how to hold the fork. You know what I mean? So it's like, now that I'm an adult, I can see that maybe he didn't go about it the nicest way. Right. But I learned that shit.
Yeah, dude. I remember one time my stepdad used to tell me like not to run outside with my in just my socks. He'd be like, put your shoes on. You're tracking dirt in the house, blah, blah, blah. And I kept doing it. And like one day I come in the house, I just ran out to say something to my mom real quick. And I come back in, and he took like my Timberland, and all of a sudden, wham, he just like smashed my foot. I was like, what the fuck? He was like, yo, I told you stop going outside. You know, like that's his way to like teach you a lesson. So he comes in the picture. Of course, it was that defiance, like, yo, you're not my dad, blah, blah, blah. I think I was like 9 years old. You know, like me and my friend like stole a pack of cigarettes from my mom. We would go up behind this grocery store, like off in the woods, and we would just smoke cigarettes all day, like smoke the whole pack. You know, you're supposed to be back by 3:30. I come home at like 4 o'clock. I'm late, whatever. I did this 2 days back to back, right? But the second day, we were like jumping the fence, and we're just dumb kids, bro, reckless shit. And I found a roll of duct tape. So I ran like duct tape all over these people's backyard from like fence to fence, whatever, jumped the fence, and we're like going through this alley, and I see like this fucking black cat go into like the culvert, like the little ditch concrete thing. I didn't know any better. I'm not a fucking sociopath or anything. But like back then it was like black cats are bad. Like if a black cat, whatever. And I was like, yo, we should kill the cat. So I took the lighter and I start trying to light the straw or whatever, like on fire. And it's like not catching. I'm back there like clicking this fucking lighter. It's not catching on fire. So I'm like, fuck it. We leave. We go smoke cigarettes all day. We come back home like 30 minutes late, right? And my sister's friend like saw me off in the woods. I ran in the store to steal lighters because this kid was like, yo, I'll give you $10 for 10 lighters. I was like, yo, I got you. I'll go steal them. So I went and stole them. And the girl was like, yo, I see you and Charlie out there. I'm like, bitch, what are you talking about? I'm not smoking. So I get home, I hop in the shower right away, but I didn't brush my teeth. I hear the phone ring. My mom comes in. She's like, come here, let me smell your breath. That girl's grandma like called and told my mom that I was smoking, right? I got my ass beat for that. The next day, the kid whose house I was supposed to be at that I never even went to is a kid we called Chub Rock. Didn't fucking hang out, a little fat kid. And he comes down the street with this woman. I'm on punishment, so I'm in my room. I see the woman coming. I'm like, who the fuck is that? She knocks on the door. I burned her fucking fence down when I was trying to light the straw on fire that I thought didn't catch on fire. It caught on fire and burnt this lady's privacy fence down. Dude, do you know what a carpet beater is? Okay, like an area rug that you would hang over, and they'd use this fucking bamboo stick to beat the fucking dirt out. My mom beat my ass with that fucking carpet. Bro, I had like the Olympic rings, it looked like, all over my ass. Dude, welt so bad from that shit. So,
and back in the day, they probably like, that was a really good parent.
That was a good parent.
Yeah,
dude.
like
she beat my ass.
It wasn't
the lady was like, I'm not going to press charges, because my mom was like, I'm going to light his ass up. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, back then it was like, yo, don't even worry about the fence. If you beat his ass,
just beat his ass. My mom was like, I got you, you know? I was young. My father just went to prison. So, of course, I'm acting out. I'm getting in a lot of trouble, whatever. Spratley Middle School, which is the middle school I was going to be going to the next year because I was in 5th grade. This kid died at the middle school I was going to go to. I was still in elementary. I was in 5th. And these two kids got in a fight, and it was just a freak accident, man. The one kid got pushed the wrong way, hit his head on the seat, and it fucking killed him. Wow. And my mom was like, oh, my God, like, Roy's going to get into all this shit, whatever. I was starting to get in fights at school and stuff. My mom moves us to the middle of fucking nowhere, bro. Like, the middle of nowhere. It was like December 1st of 95, right? I remember my mom packing us up to, like, move. And when you're young like that, an hour drive feels like all fucking day.
Cross country.
And I go from like this city kid to like, bro, I'm just seeing like cornfield. We got to a Hardee's, right? Which is like a Carl's Jr. Y'all don't have it in Florida. But
we don't have Carl's Jr. either.
You don't have Carl's Jr. either.
I know.
But you know what a Hardee's is, right? So we get to this one corner, and there's a Texaco and a Hardee's. Yeah. This is like the first sign of civilization that I've seen in forever. And I felt like Christopher Columbus when they were like, thought the earth was flat. And if we go further, we're falling off this motherfucker, right? Like, this is the end of the world right here. And bro, it was just such a culture shock, dude. Cause like I was such a city kid, and this is like Redneckville, USA, bro. It was just like hunting and all this shit that I don't do, right? All these kids that listen to
rap.
Yeah, well, I mean, back then at that age, I was listening to rock. I was still listening to shit my parents listened to, which is fucking AC/DC and Ozzy Osbourne and all that shit. You know, I didn't have like my music sense yet, but I was just a city kid though. You know, the fact that I had on butter cookies and I didn't have like the name brand, I had Rawlings tennis shoes. You know what I mean? Like that shit didn't matter, right? Where I come from. And like I'm at this place where like all these kids got money. Like I'm at a place, bro, where like, okay, these motherfuckers have so much history that, like, I go to school with a bunch of Haywoods. There's a part of town called Port Haywood, right? Wow. I go to school with Hudgens. There's a part of the town called Hudgens. So you moved in the
middle of nowhere, but it was upper middle class.
No, dude, there was like, yeah, for the most part.
Okay.
For the most part. The people who have their roots have been here forever. Their families own the plantations. You know what I mean? Like, this is what it is. And I just didn't really fit in. At first, it was like, all right, whatever, I'm the new kid. But then, like, I just started bumping heads with everybody. Like, these kids, I remember hearing this speaker one time that talked about remembering the first time his ego was awoken when he was, like, 7 years old. And I was like, how the fuck do you remember the first time your ego was awoken? And then it just dawned on me. I'm like, 5th grade. The first time I ever cared about, like, what shoes I had on, that I'm not good enough, that I don't fit in. You know what I mean? That's the first time that, like, all that shit started to matter. Now, at 36 years old, one of the first things I do is still look at what sneakers you got on, right? I don't really give a shit, but it's just like this fucking ingrained thing of like, you ain't got the right sneakers on. You know, I don't care anymore, but it's still with me, right? And so like I start getting picked on, made fun of. My mom moves us an hour like northeast, right? My mom gets a post office box another like 45 minutes northwest. Point being, so that my father, when he writes letters, thinks that we live in this area over here. Gotcha. My mom cuts us off completely from his side of the family. All of our friends from back on the other side of the water, like we don't really talk to them anymore. And we just moved to the middle of fucking nowhere, bro. Like me and my sister were so used to like when we would move to a new neighborhood, it was just like, bro, you go around and knock on the doors and be like, hey, do you have any kids? Like we just moved to the neighborhood. And you got 15 friends like on your block, you know? Bro, I'm living on 25 acres of land.
Wow.
There's 2 huge fucking cornfields in front of my house. My closest neighbor is a football field away. You know what I mean? And it's like, they ain't got no fucking kids. It's like, if you don't got a car, bro, you're beat.
Yeah.
It's in the middle of nowhere, dude. It's such a culture shock. And dude, I was like an AB honor roll student. Like I was good. I was always that kid that your son has so much potential if he would just apply himself, you know? But I was really good in math and science. And then like 5th grade, I still did pretty good. And then 6th grade, I just started failing everything. Bro, I was coming home with F's and D's on everything, you know? I remember my stepdad being like, yo, what's the deal? Like, what's going on? And I didn't want to tell them, you know what I mean? I'm like, Finally, I broke down. I was like, yo, I can't fucking concentrate at school. Like, these kids are flicking my ear. I'd gotten suspended in the 3rd grade for getting in a fight and got my ass beat. So I didn't want to get suspended again. Because we were on welfare, in order for my mom to like continue to get like Medicaid for me and my sister and food stamps and all that, she had to at least do volunteer work. So my mom started volunteering at the school cafeteria. Bruh, we're broke. We ain't got shit. Your mom's the fucking lunch lady. Like, it's just coming at me from all angles, you know? I'm just like, what the fuck, dude? Why'd you have to work at my school? Like, what the fuck, you know? I realize now, though, my mom knew that going to take that position, because my father always told her, you leave me if you want to. I'll hunt you down like a fucking dog. You can have your daughter, but I'm going to get my son. Even though we were both his kids, it was like, that's your daughter, that's my son. You'll think he's at recess, and I'm going to fucking get him, and I'll kill you. And my mom believed that he would kill her. So my mom took that position because she could take us to school and be done when we got out. I didn't know that then, that it was like a safety thing for her to like make sure we were okay. It was just like, Ma, you're fucking me up right now. You know, I'm getting made fun, whatever. I'm telling them, I'm like, yo, like, I can't concentrate. These kids are fucking with me, whatever. And my stepdad was like, you go to the biggest, baddest one. The next person to put their fucking hands on you, you bust their ass. I guarantee it'll stop. Brian, I got suspended about 12 times in the 6th grade. And I really believe that, like, fighting became my first addiction. Like, the adrenaline that I got from it. I didn't find out until much later in life, going through therapy and shit like that, right? That, like, that was, like, my inner child that used to watch my mom get beat up, that I couldn't do anything to help. Because once I kicked a couple of kids' asses and got in a fight, they were like, oh, shit, like,
you can fight.
Fuck with him if you want to. Like, he's going to throw down. Like, whether you get me or I get you, it don't matter. We're going to go. But then that transitioned into, like...
Were you a big kid in 6th grade?
No, dude. I started school when I was 4. I'm with a grade that, like, I'm not supposed to be with yet.
Yeah.
So I was average. I was average below average because of the kids I was with.
But you weren't huge now.
No, I had a growth spurt from like sophomore to junior year. I shot up like a foot. No, back then, dude, I was like below average, you know? But I just had hands, you know what I mean? I would black out, bro. I remember one time this kid fucking like threw my pencil across the table and I just jumped up, whopped him in the face. I grabbed him by the head and was trying to legit break his fucking neck on the back of the chair. You know what I mean? I was just like spaz out, like, fuck you, you know? I would just get that adrenaline rush of like, don't fuck with me, bro. And then it was like, that transitioned into like, there was this one kid, Joe, that used to always get shoved in a lot. Everybody beat on this kid, picked on this kid, whatever. And I would start to jump in and be like, yo, why don't you touch me? You know what I mean? I recognize at that age, even at a young age, those kids that are bullies, bro, they got some shit wrong with them.
For sure.
That's why they feel better by putting somebody else down.
Yeah, they probably get their ass whooped by their dad.
All the time, you know? And it's fucked up. It's sad. My mom works at the school, so like every time I get in trouble or ISS,
right there.
Bro, I'm in ISS and you go to like a separate lunch. Yeah. You know what I mean? The little quick fucking 20-minute lunch. And my mom's I don't even go in to get my food. I just like sit at the table and put my head down. And my mom comes over talking to my buddy and she's like, what are you doing in ISS? And he's like, oh yeah, me and Roy. And she didn't even know I was in ISS. I had my head down, you know, he just dimed me out. And, but she got tired of like, every time the principal's coming down the hall, my mom's like, fuck, what did he do now? You know? And my mom's telling him, she's like, yo, like my kid's not starting this shit. Like they're putting their hands on him. He's defending himself. But dude, it's like, I'm not from here. I'm the bad seed. I come to the school and I'm getting in all these fights. And it's like, these kids have been here and their parents went to school here and their grandparents went to school here and their aunt is the teacher and they've never had an issue before. And your son seems to be the problem, you know? I remember 7th grade, my parents told me, they were like, if you don't get anything lower than a C and you don't get suspended, we'll get you a dirt bike. I was like, bet. Bro, in 7th grade, like I did okay. Like I wasn't getting in fights no more, whatever. And we were in gym class. We were playing volleyball. And this kid, I'm not going to say his full government, but this kid named Chris, we're playing volleyball and he didn't like, we got assigned our fucking teams, right? By your squad, like what group you were in. And he didn't like the team that we were on because there was a bunch of girls. And he's pissed off, so he's pouting, he's sitting on the sideline. Like, he asked somebody, like, yo, can I serve after, like, sitting out? And he goes to serve, and he just, like, completely knocks it out of bounds, whatever. We make fun of him. He goes back, sits back down. A couple times later, it's my turn to serve, and this kid comes up like, yo, let me get the ball. And I was like, nah, bro, you ain't been playing the whole time. Like, get out of here. And he's like, give me the ball. And I was like, no, bro. Like, it's my turn to serve. Get the fuck out of here. And he legit, bro, grabs me with both hands by the throat, okay? And he goes to go, like, give me the fucking ball. All he give me the, boom, I shove him off. I hit him with the ball and I just clock him once. When he grabbed me by the throat, everybody in the class goes, fight, fight, fight.
Yeah.
The teacher looks and I'm clocking the kid. That's all the teacher saw was me hit the kid. So now I'm in the office like defending myself. Bro, like I didn't hit the kid for no fucking reason. Whole shit swole up, you know? Needless to say, I didn't get a dirt bike. 8th grade, same shit happened. Another situation, I got in a fight, whatever. In this town, I'm getting a lot of fights, whatever. By the time I get in like 9th grade, I got a good reputation for myself, but I'm now hanging with all the wrong kids. I'm hanging with all the kids that failed a couple years before us. Around this time, I think I was in like 9th grade, my sister was like stealing bud from my parents for her boyfriend. My sister don't smoke. My sister hates the smell of weed, doesn't like anything to do with weed.
I wonder if people still call it bud.
I don't know. I've been out the game so long.
You know what I'm saying? That's what we used to call it.
That OG Kush, you know what I mean? I've been out the game so long, so I don't know. But
Crippy.
Yeah, the Crippy joint. That little Khalifa weed. But no, she was stealing bud for her boyfriend. And like she went to school one day, I guess she had like a little dime sack or whatever and was like trying to give it to her boyfriend and they broke up. So she's like on the bus on the way home, like crying over her breakup or whatever. And this kid, like all of a sudden I see that like she's got bud. I'm like, yo, what are you doing with that? And she was like, oh, it was for fucking Matt or whatever. He dumped me today. And she was like going to give it to this other. I'm like, yo, if you're going to give it to me, what are you doing? You know? I was like 13. I realized what my sister was doing. I never even thought about it. You know, my parents would roll a joint or something and like leave their sack out, and my sister would just scoop up the shake. Or she would go in and just steal a nug out, and they would never notice. They never thought about it. Bro, I started doing that all the time.
Were you smoking already?
No, not yet. So, but I started doing that, and I would just save it up. I would save up until I had a fat sack. I knew enough of watching my parents to like break it down and pull the seeds out and get the stems and shit out, right?
They were smoking regs?
They were smoking regs back in the day, dude. And back in the day, that Reggie Bush, you know? But I knew enough to do that.
We
rolled a joint. It was, I know. It was like, man, my joint was whack, whatever. But I smoked.
Yeah, I remember the first couple of times I rolled a joint. It was horrible.
Dude, it was like all aerated and shit. There was shit like I popped holes in it, you know? But we did enough to like smoke it, right? And like I heard a lot of people say like the first time they smoked, they don't really remember getting high. I do, bro. I remember like, I just remember feeling kind of good, but I remember like, I think I fell asleep on the front porch. And I came in and my buddy Kenny's sitting there eating like fucking Frosted Mini Wheats, like just going to town. And I'm like, dude, why the fuck did you leave me out there? He's like, oh, I forgot. You know, how the fuck did you forget? I was like, and then I go to the bathroom and I got dirt all on my face. I'm like, bro, why the fuck didn't you tell me I had dirt on my face? He's like, oh, I forgot. You know, and we were just, you know, we were high. Yeah. I remember I liked the feeling. It didn't set something off in me that I needed to do it every day or nothing like that. I just like, I wanted to do it. I liked the way it felt, you know? My mom asked me about that sometimes because she's like, do you think that like there was, you know, shit so wrong? I was like, Mom, no, like it started out as fun. Like, dude, that's the thing with any addict, right? We started drinking, we started popping pills, we started doing whatever the fuck we were doing. It felt good at first. Like nobody destroyed their life overnight. Nobody sought out like, I want to fucking ruin my family. I want to break everything that they have and take everything away from them. It started out, it felt good, it was fun. I think I want to do it again. So 13, I started smoking here and there, every couple of weeks type of thing. And my parents weren't big drinkers, but they used to have a liquor cabinet for like their friends. And as things progressed, I started smoking more. I started going to the liquor cabinet and I would fill out my bottle, like off my mountain bike like this. You know, I'd put like a little bit of Mad Dog 2020, a little bit of Irish Rose, a little Wild Turkey, like a just concoction.
Yeah, the same thing.
Drink it on the fucking school bus, you know? You know, it went like that for like a long time, bro. Like, the crazy thing is I swore that I'd never do coke because I found out like my father was a coke addict and everything like that. And I think I sniffed coke when I was like 15, you know, for the first time. Most of the hard shit that I ever did was with my best friend. Like he did it first and was like, yo, you want to try it? And I was like, oh, you're straight, so why not? You know? I started sniffing a little bit of powder here and there, whatever, and, you know, popping some perks and shit like that. And oxys hadn't really hit where I was at yet. Oxys didn't really hit, at least to my knowledge. Yeah. I was probably like 17, 18 when I first experienced the oxy. My boy was like, yo, it's just like a perk without the fucking acetaminophen. You know what I mean? Like take the Tylenol out of it, like, you know, and he had an oxy 80 and we split that bitch in 4 and he gave me a corner joint, you know what I mean? So 20 milligrams, you know? And I remember I rocked that 20 milligrams, bro. And like, bro, I was like good all night. You know, I was like, holy fuck, dude, that was good. But it was like, I didn't need to do this shit every day. You know what I mean? I wanted to smoke bud every day and that was it. And it was like, the weird thing is like growing up, right? So like I had my mother who never told me anything. My mother was just like, I'd never been to jail, which she hasn't. I never did this. I never did that. Like, everything was a secret. I knew she smoked bud, but like nothing else. And then I had my stepdad who would tell me stories about back in the day, how he used to go down to Charlotte and pick up 70 pounds of bud every month. And he would break it down and he would sell 60 to a dude in Tennessee. And then he would sell, you know what I mean? And it was like, and then they started running to Miami to fucking get Coke, and they would get kilos of Coke. So it was like, I had nothing. And then I had what sounded like Scarface.
Yeah.
And I idolized like George Young and Scarface, and I want to be this dope boy and everything. Oh, so let me back it up. When I'm like 13 and I'm smoking weed all the time, starting to, my mom keeps finding bongs and paraphernalia or whatever. She's telling me I can't smoke. You can tell me I can't smoke cigarettes because I'm a fucking minor, right? And it's illegal. But like, weed's illegal for everybody. You're going to get in more trouble than I am. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, you work at the school. So like, I'm a fucking minor, you know? You can't tell me I can't smoke bud. My mom, like, one day loads me in the car with my sister and like takes me to my grandparents' house, my stepdad's parents. At this point, I'm calling my stepdad dad. He's like my dad, like, you know? Dad.
Yeah.
So she takes me to my grandparents' house and has me sitting down in front of my grandpa, who's a fucking Vietnam War veteran. I cannot tell this man a lie, no matter how bad I want to. Fucking black man who would just fucking, like, when he looks at you, he's looking through your soul. And he knows. So she sits me down in front of him, though, and, like, he's telling me about when he was in Vietnam and his friends were smoking weed and they got their heads blowed off. And, like, what makes you think it's okay? And I was like, I don't know. Like, maybe the fact that my fucking mom does. And he just like, he didn't know that.
Yeah.
Like, yo, you had the audacity to bring me here in front of grandpa?
Like, so I'm the bad one?
I got it from you. So she just keeps telling me I can't, whatever. And then like, I remember one day, I think I was 15, 16. My stepdad had taken me to my buddy's house because he was friends with my friend's dad. And we came home and he was packing a bowl. I was outside playing basketball or whatever. I came in and he was like, my dad would always like make the mistake of like trying to pass me the joint in rotation because I might be sitting and he'd be like, oh shit, and give it to his friend. And so like, we're sitting there, it's just me and him. And he like goes to hand me the bowl. I'm like, yo, dad. And he like pulled it back. He's like, oh, fuck. I was like, man, I wish you would just throw me that shit, you know? And he's like, man, I would, but your mom. I was like, dude, it's between me and you. Like, she'll never know. I swear to God, you know? So he threw it to me and we started smoking. And then like, he used to drive a semi-truck. He owned a semi-truck, so he'd be gone like throughout the week. So he went up, took a shower. He was getting ready to leave for the week and he threw me like a bowl pack and was like, here you go. Like, I'll smoke one more with you and here's something for you, whatever. And then he came back. I was like, I wonder if like this is going to be like a thing. Yeah. And he came in like the next weekend and we did it again. And I was like, bet. Like, I told my boy Jason, I was like, yo, this is the best. Like, I'm smoking with my dad, da 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 da. I remember it was like around Father's Day. So it was like June of 2002 because it was junior to my senior year. I remember like me and my boy Jason gave my dad some hydro. We had some hydro. And Jason was like, yo, I want to hook your dad up. Like, he's going to. So we gave him like probably a dime sack of dro, right? They told me to cut the grass. Like, I had to cut the grass and shit. So I'm out there cutting the grass and like, my mom like waves me over and she's like, listen, I know what you do. I've been knowing what you did. I can't stop you from doing it. But all I'm going to say is like, if you are going to do it at the house. Don't be stupid about it. I'm like, oh shit, this is the best. Like, she's finally like just getting off my back and letting me smoke. And then she was like, so how much you got? And I was like, oh, wait till you see this shit. Because I ain't got that reg bullshit y'all been smoking. Like, I got dro. You know what I mean? Like, I got some fucking sponge dro shit right now. Wait till you see this shit, ma. And I went up and got it and I showed her. And then my dad like comes and gives me the bag back, like that me and Jason, he's like, yo, take this back and then give it back to me. He's smoking on the side because like him and my mom ain't got no weed. You know what I mean? Like, she don't know that I gave him this dro. Yeah. So he's like, give it back, you know? From that point, me and my parents are smoking together. Now, all of a sudden, like senior year of high school, like my house is the house to be at because like all my friends can come over. Bro, I remember on like 420, we rolled a joint that weighed 7 grams, 7.5 grams. It was a 1/4 ounce joint. Like we took 4 JOB 1.5s and put them together and used the glue from the other ones. And we rolled it and then we weighed it on the scale. It was, you know what I mean? That was just like, yo, I was like having the time of my life though. Like all my boys could come to the house. We could all smoke now. We didn't have to hide it no more. It was just like, it was heaven, you know? Fucking black light posters and the skunk weed and all this shit. And
gravity
then, like,
bongs, whatever.
all that, bro. I had been having all that, you know. My mom just kept fucking. I'd come home and there'd be a bong, and my mom would be like, "What is?" And I'm like, "Mom, you know what it is? Like, what are we doing?" Like, you know, my mom let me like grow weed in her tomato garden.
That's so funny.
You know? Yo, that was the time of my life, bro. Like, shit was good. I drank, bro. I did some ecstasy here and there. I sniffed some coke. I did some oxys every now and again, but nothing ever grabbed me, bro. Like, the only thing I ever wanted to do, like, I was like, I'm going to smoke till I die. Like, that was my shit. You know, I like to smoke. This is the shit to be fucking with me sometimes, bro, because sometimes I'd be like, yo, am I really an addict, right? Because, like, I transitioned when I got put on probation because I got caught for possession of marijuana. In today's world, is legal, right? So then sometimes my mind would be like, oh, well, if it was today, like, I never even would have got put on papers, so I wouldn't have had to take a drug test and blah, 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 you know? I got a possession of marijuana charge. I had just turned 18. It was like my birthday. And my sister's boyfriend took me to a strip club, and we got caught by the cops in the parking lot, underage possession of alcohol, possession of marijuana, blah, blah, blah. I got put on probation for that. Dude, just like one thing after the other kept happening, right? Like legal troubles and shit. Like my mom and dad split up, and then my mom got a new boyfriend. I remember like 06 was like the worst year of my life, bro. Like at this point, I was selling oxys. I was addicted to the money. You know, down here, you guys had the pill mills and shit like that, right? We didn't have that. Like pain management in Virginia, in order to get into pain management, you had to have a referral, and then there was a waiting list. So you might have to wait a month or two before you could get into pain management. Like you couldn't just go get the MRI and go to whatever. When I first seen an Oxy 80, you could get an Oxy 80 for like 30, 40 bucks.
Wow.
By this time, oxys are $1 a milligram. 06. They're straight up $1 a milligram. And we have a bunch of friends at this point who haven't transitioned over to heroin yet. Because they're in the fucking middle of nowhere. These kids, Newport News and Hampton, even though it's an hour away across the water, like they don't know anybody over there, right? I do. So I can go over to Hampton and I can get Oxy 40s for 20 a pop. So I'm paying 50 cents a milligram, but I can take them back and sell them for $1 a milligram. Listen, bro, I was never no kingpin. What I wanted to be, I never was. But like the closest I would do to a deal is like 2 for 75. And even though like, and I never had that mindset, like even though like if you came and bought one for 40 bucks, this one is technically free. I don't want to do it though, because the way I saw it was like, I can get 40 for this one. That's the same as me spending 40 on this pill. Like I'm not spending 40 on a fucking pill. What I would do is like, when I would re-up, my dude would like front me 20 or 30 at first, and I go back and I get off him. I come back and forth. In a couple of days, I'd run through, you know, all of his script for the month. And then I had to wait until next month before he do it again. When I would get down to where I had like 3 or 4 left.
People weren't going to multiple boxes?
They had multiple people, but this one specific connect that I had. And I wanted to rob him, dude. He was like, he won't built right. He was like 5'2". I could have easily, but I knew it was like, this is a good connect. Like, dude would front me, whatever. But when I would get down to where I had like 3 or 4 left, I would do one. Like, I like to get high. Like, I like to do them. I just didn't want to spend my money on them like that. It was always more about the money than anything else. You know, I'd gotten to the point, I think I was like 18. My mom had started charging me rent. Like my dad had moved out, so my mom's charging me rent. And I used to pay my mom rent with an ounce of weed. Wow. You know, like I would go get a QP, break it down. I'd throw my mom a half ounce. And like that was my rent money for the week, you know, because she was going to go to her dude and buy it anyway, you know. So it was like, but then when I realized like, yo, the money in weed is so small. Like the margins are so small where I could like double up my money with the pills.
Yeah, you got to sell a shit ton of weed to make money.
It wouldn't cost me anything, but I wasn't coming ahead, you know, where like the oxys, bro, it always kept money in my pocket. Like I would meet people at the mall. I could go buy Jordans or whatever the fuck I wanted. You know, like I always had gas money. I always had money on me. You know what I mean? I always had a job too, though. That was the thing. Like I was an electrician. I always had a job. I never like went without a job. Bro, like things just progressed, man. Like what happened was 06. The reason I say it's the worst year of my life is like my mom and dad had been split up for like a year. All of a sudden I come home one day and like, bro, I had 2 12s in the trunk. You could hear me coming from a mile away. And we had a long ass fucking driveway. And I'm coming down the driveway and I see this truck. Guy came out the door with like 2 little kids and they got in the truck. And it was like a construction truck. So I'm just thinking like, dude must be at the house like fixing something or whatever. And he leaves. I've been gone for like 3 days. And my mom comes up and she's like, oh, I got a new friend. Her and my stepdad have been together for the last 10 years, bro. Like I'm thinking that they're like gonna get back together. You know, he's like the only dad that I've ever known. And I told him when they split up, like, yo, even if you and mom aren't together, like, you're my dad, bro. Like, you fucking raised me. I've known him since I was 4. I'm like, well, he ain't my fucking friend. You know what I mean? And I just dipped. And I left and I went to my boy's house for a little bit. I come back a couple hours later. It's now like 9 o'clock at night.
He's moved in.
And this fucking truck is back. It's the same night. I just met that there's a new friend today. He left when I got here. I come back hours later. He's here again. And they're like in the house, like eating dinner and shit, whatever. At the time, my sister had 2 kids. I heard him say something about like, all right, guys, get ready to take a bath. We're going to go to bed. And I looked at my sister and I was like, are they staying the night? She was like, they moved in. I was like, what the fuck? Like, I just met the guy. What do you mean they moved in? You know? And it was shortly after that, like my mom kicked me and my sister out. I sold him some coke and trying to tell my mom like he's a piece of, I was like, yo, I remember I'd like,
You're like, yo, mom, this dude bought coke off me.
I'd robbed this girl for like 7 grams. I was like, I came back to the crowd. I was like, yo, Ernie, you know anybody want some powder? And he was like, yeah, me. So I threw him a gram. And then he came back and was like, yo, can I get another gram? I didn't find out until way later, years later, he did the coke with my mom.
Wow.
I didn't know that. Like my mom she had done it when she was way younger. But like this is how like off the chain shit is at my home, whatever. So my mom kicks me and my sister out. My stepdad had set my sister up with like a 1-bedroom apartment. And like I was going to stay there. And like me and my sister did not get along. So then he got me like a motel room for a week. He bought me, you could pay like $350 for a motel for the week until we could figure something out the next week. And like I moved my shit in on a Friday. I went out to a party with like with my girlfriend and a bunch of other people, whatever. We all were coming back to my motel room for the night. I got like 15 people at this fucking room. And I'm like, yo, y'all got to settle the fuck down. Like I'm going to get kicked out. My dad, I ain't got nowhere to go, right? I'm in the bathroom and the cops show up. So the cops show up. I'm 20. Like I'm not even 21.
Yeah.
Nobody's 21. And we got all this beer and shit in the room. And my girlfriend's like 18. Nobody's 21 though. Is this your room? Yeah. You got anything in here? I just got put on probation today.
Wow.
That day, I just went and met my new probation officer. I pissed dirty, but she told me like, you got the next time, come clean, whatever. So like I wasn't doing no coke, no nothing, right? And I told him, I was like, yeah, you could search the room because I don't have shit. I don't got no bud. I don't got nothing. Like the beer that they already fucking see. I told them to search the room. Bro, they come out and somebody had stuffed a Marlboro Red pack in my laundry basket. They were like, oh, what kind of cigarettes? Marlboro Lights, whatever. Come to find out, somebody stuffed this Marlboro Red pack in my laundry basket and there was coke in it. So I get arrested for possession of cocaine on a Friday night. I call my dad, I call my girlfriend's mom. I'm like, listen, I swear to God, they knew it wasn't mine.
It's really not.
I'm like, it's really not fucking mine, right? I'm like, yo, I tell my girlfriend's mom, like, if you bond me out in the morning, I'll go to the bank, get the cash, I'll pay you back, whatever. So she does. It was like a $500 bond. I bond out Saturday morning, right? And then I go to work. I'm at work with my coworkers and I'm like, yo, let me get a pistol. I know one of you's got a pistol, right? Because I know it's 1 or 2 guys that fucking put that in my, and I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, I'm gonna get them in a room and I'm gonna shoot your fucking dick off if you don't tell me who did it, whatever. They're like, dude, I'm not giving you a gun, you know? So I'm like, all right, whatever. So then Monday, I go to work. I'm at this house and I have to move this person's bed and their nightstand to get to an outlet. I'm doing electrical work. And when I move the fucking nightstand in the bed, I see the butt of the gun sticking out. And back then I had this leather Echo jacket, like the big Averex jackets they used to have back in the day. And I had this like secret pocket that was right here on the back that would unzip. So I took my jacket off and I unzip and I'm trying to shove this fucking 357 in the fucking, it ain't gonna zip up. Wow. So I take my razor knife and I slice the pocket, shove the gun in and close it up. And I throw right when I throw the jacket back on, the fucking homeowner walks in and I'm like, fuck. And I already know, I'm like, I need to put the gun back. Like, but the fucking homeowner's standing here talking to me, right? And I have to leave to go report to probation. I'd gotten sentenced to probation. Monday, I'm going to report to probation for the first time. Whatever, the homeowner's there, he's talking to me, whatever. He's following me everywhere now. And I can feel this fucking gun just like bulging on my back. I'm like, he knows. Like his eyes are burning into my back. He knows, whatever. And my boss is like, yo, didn't you have to leave? And I'm like, yeah, I got to leave at 12:30, whatever. So I go out to the work van to get something for him and I take the jacket off and throw it in the van. I'm like, let me just get this fucking jacket off. But in my mind, I'm like, I need to get the gun back, but I can't get the gun back because the fucking homeowner's following me, whatever. So I go to probation, which is an hour away. It's in fucking Tappahannock.
With the gun.
I'm in Newport News.
Yeah.
But I'm driving like an hour away. I stop off at the motel room and dump the gun there.
Gotcha.
And then go to probation. Boom. That's when I pop dirty for the weed or whatever. She's like, just be clean next time, whatever. And at the end of it, she's just about to wrap up and she's like, were you working in Newport News today? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, were you working with Kevin, whatever? And I was like, yeah. And I'm like, how the fuck does she know this? Because I don't normally work with this guy. It was a side job. She's like, yeah, you know anything about a gun missing from the property? And I'm like, no. She's like, okay, well, I'm gonna tell you right now, like they called and said that there was a gun missing and that gun has sentimental value. So like, if you return the gun, they won't press charges. But if you don't, they're going to press charges. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, you know? So then I leave from there. I've got 30 minutes back to the fucking, and in my mind, I'm like, yo, the fucking cops are already at the fucking room. They're going to have my shit surrounded, whatever. Kevin's never going to fucking let me work with him again. It was only me and Kevin. He was under the house. I was in the house. The gun's gone. He knows it was me. Yeah. He knows what just happened Friday, right? So I call Kevin. I leave a voicemail, and I'm like, yo, my bad. I know I fucked up. I'm sorry. I'm bringing the gun back. Because I'm thinking if I bring the gun back, no charges. So my girlfriend takes me. Yeah, bro. So my girlfriend, you fell for that. So my girlfriend.
I was like, bro, I hope you didn't do that.
Yeah.
So I remember they told me this once when I was a kid. They were like, oh, if you tell us what happened, da-da-da, like nothing. I was like, can you put that in writing? And I remember I was like in middle school, and they were like, who is this kid? He thinks he's an attorney?
Yeah,
But I was like, I need that in writing.
Well, that's why I tried to call my boss. I tried to call Kevin just to be like, yo, what's good?
But they know it's you.
Right. But I didn't. And this guy is like family. This guy is like my best friend's fucking uncle, you know what I mean, who I work for. Like, none of the family will ever fuck with me again. This is my best friend. It'd be like you fucking over Carl's family. You know what I mean? So I call him to be like, yo, I'm on the way with the gun, you know? And I pull up and I see the unmarked Taurus. I'm like, it looks like a fucking cop's car, you know? Sure. And I pull in the driveway, and Kevin comes like kind of speed walking out. And I walk up to him. He's like, yo, get the fuck out of here. And I was like, yo, I thought if I brought... He's like, get the fuck out of here, bro. They're coming. And the detective comes running out the house, whatever. So I tell him what happened. I'm like, yo, I got arrested 3 days ago for this fucking coke charge. It's not my shit. You know what I'm saying? I'm not in the right state of mind right now, and I wanted to fucking get the guys that I think did the shit in a room, whatever.
That sounds horrible.
It sounds so horrible. Bro, when I went in front of the magistrate, when I went in front of the judge and told her that...
You're telling the cop, you're like, yo, I needed a gun so I could point it to these guys' heads.
Right. Conspiracy to fucking commit murder or some shit, you know? It was stupid. So now I get arrested for grand larceny of a firearm. I'm 2 days out on bond for coke. I get arrested for grand larceny of a firearm. My dad bonds me out.
Then you have the party? Oh, no, this is in the middle of the party.
I got arrested Friday.
Okay. Had the party.
Then got arrested.
Try to get the gun.
Then I got the gun Monday. Okay. So I get arrested again now for grand larceny of a firearm. So my dad bonds me out. Next couple of months, like I'm waiting to go to court, you know what I mean? I'm going fucking pre-trial bullshit, whatever, preliminary hearings and shit. You have a right to an attorney, whatever. I got the best fucking attorney for the coke charge. Court appointed to me because every now and again they have to take pro bono cases. This Mike Sobrick was the attorney in Gloucester, best attorney in Gloucester, and I wanted him, but I couldn't afford him. And then he ended up getting court appointed to me. I was like, bet. Because the thing was, bro, my fingerprints weren't on the fucking cigarette, whatever. I'm waiting to go to court for all this shit. June comes around. My stepdad, I had moved out. I had some roommates and shit that I was living with. And I was paying them 3 oxys a week, 340s a week for rent. They wanted $100 a week for rent, so I'd give them 340s. Then they were like, oh, well, you got to give us 5 because you only pay 20. And I was like, bitch, I can sell the 3 for 120.
Exactly.
You want the 100 or you want the 3 fucking, you know, so they took them. So my dad comes through and he's like, yo, like, I'm thinking about getting my own spot. Like, would you want to move with me? And I was like, yeah, bet, bro. He's like my best friend. Like, my stepdad was like my best friend. I'm like, bet, bro. He signs the lease on a Saturday. The following weekend, we're going to move into this new house. He dies Wednesday.
Wow.
He had a massive heart attack in his truck. And at the time, like, one night I was leaving his house. I was drunk, and my hood on my car had, like, the latch was broken. The hood flew up and smashed my windshield out. So he gave me the money to like get a new windshield, get a new hood and shit, whatever. And I was paying him back like $50 a week. And that weekend I was like, yo, like I know my dude's going to call me to re-up. I owed him like $200. I was like, yo, if you let me hold the money, because I need all the money I can get right now to re-up, like I'll pay you in full next week. And he was like, all right, just be safe, whatever. I'd read up on Tuesday and he died Wednesday. So I had a pocket full of fucking oxys, bro. And at no point, like I remember I left my boy's house to go serve somebody and I got the call. And I got the call and it was like my dad's friend's number and I answered and it was like my dad's weed man was like, hey, Roy, it's Jerry. And I was like, what's up? He's like, I got bad. And I'm thinking he's telling me like cops are on me or something. He's like, it's your dad. And I'm like, nah, bro, like don't even. And I just fucking threw the phone. And then boom, he calls back and they're like, Roy, you have to come here right now. And they're like 30, 40 minutes away. I'm like, no, dude, I can't come there. Right. I'm in denial. I'm in disbelief, whatever, but I'm not coming, bro. Like what are you talking about, you know? And I'm like, all right, I'm on the way. So I start driving there and it's like 40 minutes. So I'm like going through like moments of like, I'm fucking bawling, crying. And then I'm like, nah, this is a joke, you know? And I reel it back in and my phone's blowing up. I pull up and as I pull up, the coroner was like pulling the body bag out of the truck to put in the coroner's van. Wow. And I remember I just let go of the wheel and I hit the curb. My dad's best friend like ran up to me and was like, you know, hugged me. My grandparents are there and we're crying. Bro, at no point did my mind, I had a pocket full of oxys.
You didn't even feel like using.
No, at no point my mind was like, I need to do something, you know? Like that was not my mindset. I left, I was there for a little while and I left there and again, everybody's blowing my phone up. My boy Jason's calling me because at the time, like Jason sold oxys and dope, but a lot of kids weren't fucking with heroin yet. I had oxys. He didn't have any oxys. He only had heroin. So everybody's blowing him up, trying to get a hold of me. He's the only person I answer the phone for. And he's like, yo, bro, where the fuck you at? Da, da, da. And I'm like, yo, man, my dad just died. And he knew my dad real good. And he's like, bro, I'm sorry, whatever. He's like, yo, when you come home, stop at my crib. He lived right at the end of the street. So I pull up to his crib, I knock on the bedroom window, and he comes out and he throws me like 3 bags of dope. And he's like, listen, bro, you don't owe me no money for that. Because I would get high for free. If you gave me some shit and was like, I'll do it all day.
Heroin or?
Heroin, whatever. I had done heroin.
Oh, so you had tried it.
I had sniffed heroin a couple of times with him. I remember he got out of jail. I had fronted him a bag of weed. He went to jail. He owed me $50. And I remember he called me. He'd been gone for like a year. And he called me and he's like, yo, what's good? Like, coming to Texaco, blah, blah, blah. And I remember on the way up there, I told my girl, I was like, I swear to God.
The spot.
He better, yeah, it was a spot. It was called Heiko. And I was like, he better have my fucking money, right? I rolled the window down and he dapped me up and he threw 60 in my hand. So he paid me back plus a little bit extra.
Yeah.
I remember like, we were chopping and I was like, yo, what are you doing tonight? And he was like, oh, I'm going to go meet this girl. I'm going to get some H. I was like, you gonna go get some head? He was like, nah, heroin. I was like, because I didn't know what the fuck H was. I was like, yo, what? And he was like, nah, heroin. I was like, yo, you fuck with that? Like, when did you know what I'm saying? And mind you, this is the same kid, first time I ever sniffed powder with, first time I ever did an ecstasy with. This is my best friend.
Wow.
Best friend. First time I ever like sniffed anything with. And he was like, yeah, I'm going to go. I was like, yo, when did you start? He was like, I tried it when I was in jail, whatever. And he was like, yo, it's just like doing an oxy, bro.
Same
like,
thing.
Whatever.
Yeah.
So I see him like a couple days later and he's like, yo, what's good? And he's like, you want to try? Tiniest little line, you know what I mean? And I did it. Whatever. I didn't think nothing of it. See, what happens is we watch these movies like Requiem in a Dream and we watch.
They try a drug and it's like
we see the people with their arm falling
thing.
off.
Yeah.
And then we see one of our friends do it and it's like, the first
time I smoked crack, I was like, that was crack?
That was it.
I was like, it was not that different than doing coke. I was like, man, this whole time, I thought it was going to be so crazy.
Hollywood's lying to us,
yeah,
you know,
man.
Whatever.
I tried to tell all my friends, I'm like, bro, crack is just like coke. They were like, no, dog, we ain't smoking crack. I'm like, bro, I'm telling, it's the same. They were like, no, bro, we are not.
You're out of your mind.
I was like, bro, I'm telling you. You just try it. They were like, no, dog, we are not smoking. Nobody wanted to do that shit. I got a couple people to try it.
Yeah.
But like, even when the first time I did coke, I was so scared to do it. And then
did it. You were like, oh, that was
like, bro, I didn't even feel it. I just played video games all night and they couldn't sleep. All right, so your boy.
He gives me the dope.
So you just find out your dad dies.
Found out my dad died.
Your boy gives you the 3 bags.
He gives me the 3 bags and he's like, yo, that's on me. Like, don't worry about it, whatever. Like,
because he didn't have pills. So
no, he didn't have pills. I had pills though. I had a pocket full of pills. That wasn't my thought process. I didn't want to get high on my own supply. I wasn't thinking about get high. I don't remember, like maybe I sniffed a pill. I don't really remember. I just remember him throwing me the 3 bags of dope. I remember going home to my roommate's house. You know, that's all we did. We used to just fucking sniff oxy, sniff coke and shit, and watch movies and shit. And
but maybe you're not an addict.
Maybe I'm not an addict, right? I went home and I sniffed a bag of dope, bro. And it was like, I literally went from telling my roommates the story of what just happened and fucking bawling my eyes out. And then, 20, 30 minutes later, all of a sudden the tears aren't coming anymore. And it's like, I feel like I should be crying, but I'm not crying. And that's when I was like, all right, this is working. Like, I don't have to fucking feel this right now. And so for like the next couple of days,
you know how people talk about how like, the first time their ego awoke?
Yeah.
Well, people also talk about the first time they used
when their addiction
to fix a feeling.
Right.
The first time you're using for a solution.
Right.
The first time you're using to numb the pain.
Right.
This show is not affiliated with any specific 12-step program. If you or a loved one is struggling with an addiction, please find a local 12-step meeting. If you believe you may need detox or drug treatment of any kind, please call 833-999-1877 to speak to a specialist. This show is sponsored by United Recovery Project, a state-of-the-art drug and alcohol rehab facility. You can visit our website at unitedrecoveryproject.com.